Okay, good morning. Tuesday, January 28th. It is 11 a.m. Central Time, and we are going over Course in Miracles, Lesson 28. We're going through the first 50 lessons as we start to look at how our consciousness is set up and conditioned by the ego mind, by the separate mind, and how we can begin to become aware of that mind and then let that mind go, let that way of thinking go so that our perception changes, and then so we can begin to see the world differently. So let's start this morning with the introduction, reading the introduction to the Course in Miracles. The introduction says this is a Course in Miracles. It is a required course. Only the time you take it is voluntary. Free will does not mean that you can establish the curriculum. It means only that you can elect what you want to take at a given time. The course does not aim at teaching the meaning of love, for that is beyond what can be taught. It does aim, however, at removing the blocks to the awareness of love's presence, which is your natural inheritance. The opposite of love is fear, but what is all-encompassing can have no opposite. This course can therefore be summed up very simply in this way: nothing real can be threatened, nothing unreal exists. Herein lies the peace of God. Nice, huh? This is a required course, and of course, as it says earlier in the preface to the Course in Miracles, it is presented with a framework of in the framework of Christianity. It is a universal course. Everyone must take it, but it is not the only framework. It is not the only path back home. It is not the only path of remembrance and resurrection back to our source. It just uses the Christian terminology and framework to explain universal ideas and a universal curriculum. So, as sort of caveat at the beginning of this, let's go to lesson 28. And lesson 28 says, above all else, I want to see things differently. Yesterday, of course, we said, above all else, I want to see, and it was related to the idea of vision and inner vision and an eternal vision, a vision that does not change, a state of mind and consciousness that is absolute and does not change. On the other hand, we learned yesterday, and we've been learning, that the ego mind is a mind of variation. It was pointed out yesterday that when we look from the ego, when I look from the ego, sometimes I may see one thing, sometimes I may see something else. And also, I do that not only with my own egos, I do that to other egos. So the entire relationship and the entire interaction there is variable. It's constantly changing. It is never complete and whole, and it is always variable. So today, above all else, above everything else, I want to remember. Okay, I want to, my spirituality, my true state of being, my spirit is the one thing above all else that I want to remain focused on, that I want my consciousness, that I want to hold in my consciousness. It says, today we are really giving specific application to the idea for yesterday. We are getting specific today. In these practice periods, you will be making a series of definite commitments. The question of whether you will keep them in the future is not our concern here. If you are willing at least to make them now, you have started on the way to keeping them. And we are still at the beginning. So as the Course says, the idea is to begin to practice a little willingness. The Holy Spirit needs just a little willingness in order to set us on the journey of remembrance. You may wonder why it is important to say, for example, above all else, I want to see this table differently. In itself, it is not important at all. Yet, what is it by itself? And what does, quote unquote, in itself mean? You see a lot of separate things about you, which really means you are not seeing at all. You either see or not. When you have seen one thing differently, you will see all things differently. The light you will see in any one of them is the same light you will see in them all. When you say, quote, above all else, I want to see this table differently, end quote, you are making a commitment to withdraw your preconceived ideas about the table and open your mind to what it is and what it is for. You are not defining it in past terms. You are asking what it is rather than telling it what it is. You are not binding its meaning to your tiny experience of tables, nor are you limiting its purpose to your little personal thoughts. You will not question what you have already defined. Remember, we're just at the beginning, as it says. And the purpose of these exercises is to ask questions and receive the answers. In saying, above all else, I want to see this table differently, you are committing yourself to seeing. It is not an exclusive commitment. It is a commitment that applies to the table just as much as to anything else, neither more nor less. You could, in fact, gain vision from just that table if you would withdraw all your own ideas from it and look upon it with a completely open mind. It has something to show you, something beautiful and clean and of infinite value, full of happiness and hope, just this table, right? Hidden under all your ideas about it is its real purpose, the purpose it shares with all the universe. In using the table as a subject for applying the idea for today, you are therefore really asking to see the purpose of the universe. There you go. Right? Oh, now I'm excited. The purpose of the universe. And the purpose of the universe can be found in this table, apparently, or in that curtain, or in that window, or in that person, or in that car, or in that field. I can apparently see the purpose of the universe. Thank you, Wanda, for the likes. I do appreciate it. Anyone else in the room, just like Wanda, if you'd like to, you can tap the screen several times and we'll get more likes for this live, which helps with the algorithm and all that good stuff. Thank you so much, Wanda. Appreciate it. In using the table as a subject for applying the idea for today, you are therefore really asking to see the purpose of the universe. You will be making this same request of each subject that you use in the practice periods, and you are making a commitment to each of them to let its purpose be revealed to you instead of placing your own judgment upon it. And it says, try 6 2-minute practice periods today. State the idea first. Above all else, I want to see things differently. And then apply that phrase to whatever you see about you. Choose the subjects randomly. And you try not to make one subject more important than another, is the idea. Okay, as usual, the applications should include the name of the subject your eyes happen to light upon, and you should rest your eyes on it while saying, above all else, I want to see this blank differently. Each application should be made quite slowly and as thoughtfully as possible. There is no hurry. So again, the idea here is to have willingness to do the exercises. It may seem silly to the ego. It may seem ridiculous to the ego to say, above all else, I want to see this phone differently. Above all else, I want to see this computer differently. There's going to be a thought in my head. The ego is going to say to me, man, what are you doing? What are you talking about? Above all else? And of course, as it explains here, the idea is to apply it to everything and to understand that I'm really trying to gain vision, trying to see the world and the universe differently, to see everyone in the world and the universe differently. And hoping to find out, pointing myself in the direction of intending to find out the purpose of the universe, the meaning of the universe, which now we can get on board, right? It sounds like a good idea. That is something I would like to get involved in. Okay? So we're supposed to do the exercises from the course, just do them without judging them. Try to stop that critical voice from slowing us down and simply do them. And then over the year and over the years as this is practiced, I will begin to see things differently. This, in fact, is true. I've worked with this material for over 20 years now, approaching like 25 years, with a group of people. And yes, I think differently than I used to. I'm a different person than I used to be. I think differently than I used to think, right? I've let go of a lot of guilt, anger, judgment, cynicism, all those things, right? And I, believe it or not, have become more loving, more peaceful, more harmonized with other people and things, more able to not get triggered by attacks or perceived attacks and those types of things. And it's true, this course will help. This mind training, as the course calls it, does help. So I also like to read a corresponding part of the text in addition to the lesson for the day. So today we'll read from chapter 4, section 4, and the title of this section is called This Need Not Be. Now, of course, I have a copy of the book. You can see I've been through it a few times. I've been through it with a red highlighter, I've been through it with blue highlighter, I've been through it with a ballpoint pen a couple times. But if you do not have the book, you can also go online to ACIM.org, which is the website of the Foundation for Inner Peace, which is the publisher of Course in Miracles. You can find all of this open source online. So, chapter 4, section 4 says, this need not be. And it says, if you cannot hear the voice for God, it is because you do not choose to listen. That you do listen to the voice of your ego is demonstrated by your attitudes, your feelings, and your behavior. Ouch, right? So, that's one of the reasons I like the Course in Miracles. It's not all butterflies and rainbows, if you will. Okay, it's not all unicorns and butterflies and rainbows. It does speak to the ego in the text and in the workbook. And these first two sentences here at the start of section 4 here is just that kind of hard saying that I think is a very important part of spiritual practice. So there's not a continual spiritual bypass going on. Oh, everything's fine. Everything's wonderful. I'm loving and gentle and kind. And, oh no, I never get angry. Pulling that spiritual bypass, right? That's a problem too. Don't really want to do that. It says, if you cannot hear the voice for God, it's because you choose not to listen. And not only do I choose not to listen for the voice of God, I choose to listen to the ego. This is what you want. This is what you are fighting to keep and what you are vigilant to save. Your mind is filled with schemes to save the face of your ego. And you do not seek the face of Christ. The glass in which the ego seeks to see its face is dark indeed. How can it maintain the trick of its existence except with mirrors? But where you look to find yourself is up to you. So here the ego is the deceiver, right? The ego is a lie. The ego is an illusion. The ego is a lie. And the father of lies sounds familiar, right? It says, I have said that you cannot change your mind by changing your behavior, but I have also said, and many times, that you can change your mind when your mood tells you that you have chosen wrongly. And this is so whenever you are not joyous, then no, this need not be. And of course, as with all spiritual material, it corresponds to other spiritual teachings and other materials. And I can hear an echo here from Abraham Hicks and the teaching of Abraham Hicks, right? If I monitor my feelings, my state of being, what are my feelings like, right? My mood, as it says here. When your mood tells you you have chosen wrongly, and what is the choice between? I can listen to the voice of the ego, or I can listen to the voice of the Holy Spirit, and there is a choice. When I'm listening to the voice of the ego, I can tell I am, because I am not joyous, right? I'm impatient. I'm frustrated. I'm angry. I'm cynical. I'm scoffing. But what does it say here? No, this need not be. In every case, you have thought wrongly about some brother God created and are perceiving images your ego makes in a darkened glass. Think honestly what you have thought that God would not have thought, and what you have not thought that God would have you think. Search sincerely for what you have done and left undone accordingly. And then change your mind to think with God's. This may seem hard to do, but it is much easier than trying to think against it. Your mind is one with God's. Denying this and thinking otherwise has held your ego together, but it has literally split your mind. As a loving brother, I am deeply concerned with your mind and urge you to follow my example as you look at yourself and at your brother and see in both the glorious creations of a glorious Father. So it's also pointing out here that I can look at myself incorrectly every time I condemn myself, every time I'm disappointed in myself, every time that voice in my head tells me I'm an idiot, right? What am I doing? I am condemning a creation of God. I am, as it says here, thinking differently than how God would have me think. When you are sad, no, this need not be. Depression comes from a sense of being deprived of something you want and do not have. Remember that you are deprived of nothing except by your own decisions, and then decide otherwise. When you are anxious, realize that anxiety comes from the capriciousness of the ego, and no, this need not be. You could be as vigilant against the ego's dictates as for them. And here's the big one. When you feel guilty, remember that the ego has indeed violated the laws of God, but you have not. Leave the sins of the ego to me. That is what the atonement is for. But until you change your mind about those whom your ego has hurt, the atonement cannot release you. While you feel guilty, your ego is in command because only the ego can experience guilt. This need not be. So that's a big paragraph there and a heavy, deep concept here in the Course, because it is asking me to forgive myself, to realize that since the ego is an illusion, the ego is not real, that the harm that the ego has seemingly committed does not in reality exist. I have never been harmed. I have never harmed anyone or anything, because the guilty world, the world of an ego, the world of the ego is an illusion. It's part of a dream. It is a simulation. Okay? It is a dream that I am hoping to wake up from. Anything that happens in a dream, of course, when you wake up from the dream, if you wake up from a dream at night, you realize, of course, that did not really happen. And though there might be some feeling attached to it when you first wake up, as you go on with your day and forget about the dream, of course, the feeling disappears. Any feeling associated with that dream fades away, it disappears. And so here it is telling us when we feel guilty, it need not be. Watch your mind for the temptations of the ego and do not be deceived by it. It offers you nothing. When you have given up this voluntary dispiriting, you will see how your mind can focus and rise above fatigue and heal. And it talked about this fatigue earlier, and the dispiriting earlier has to do with the ego and judgment and constantly judging, constantly criticizing, maybe not out loud, but of course internally, and how that is fatiguing. It says your mind can focus. I can change my mind. I can choose differently. I can make a decision to choose differently. I can make a decision to listen to the voice of the Holy Spirit and heal and rise above the fatigue. You are not sufficiently vigilant against the demands of the ego to disengage yourself. This need not be. The habit of engaging with God and his creations, the thoughts of God, is easily made if you actively refuse to let your mind slip away. The problem is not one of concentration. This is a great statement, too. The problem is not one of concentration. It is the belief that no one, including yourself, is worth consistent effort. Side with me consistently against this deception and do not permit this shabby belief to pull you back. The disheartened are useless to themselves and to me, but only the ego can be disheartened. Problem is not one of concentration. It is the belief that no one, including yourself, is worth consistent effort. Okay, so that's a problem of self-esteem. That's a problem of misidentification. Only the ego has shabby beliefs. The ego has a shabby belief about itself, which is disheartening. And it says, do not decide with this deception. Reject it. Get thee behind me, ego. Get thee behind me, Satan. Get thee behind me, shabby thoughts, disheartening thoughts, thoughts of self-criticism, doubt. You know, want to give those thoughts up. They will be replaced. They have already been replaced. And if I stop acceding to them, then they will fade away. Have you really considered how many opportunities you have had to gladden yourself and how many of them you have refused? There is no limit to the power of the Son of God, but he can limit the expression of his power as much as he chooses. Your mind and mine can unite in shining your ego away, releasing the strength of God into everything you think and do. Do not settle for anything less than this and refuse to accept anything but this as your goal. Watch your mind carefully. Judge how well you have done this by your own feelings. Judgment, like any other defense, can be used to attack or protect, to hurt or to heal. The ego should be brought to judgment and found wanting. Without your own allegiance, protection, and love, the ego cannot exist. Let it be judged truly, and you must withdraw allegiance, protection, and love from it. It has, we read earlier in the week, a couple sections ago, maybe even the last section, that since I created the ego, since I created my self-conception, apart from God's creation, apart from God's thoughts about me, I treat it like a child. I treat my own creation as it is my own, and so I defend it. I love it, even though it doesn't love me. Why doesn't it love me? Because it was created as an idea of separation. The ego does not love its creator because it is not one with its creator. And it says in the Course, the ego realizes there is some enemy somewhere that is looking to eliminate it. Ego is the idea of death. The ego understands its ultimate end is death. So it tries to defend itself against that ultimate death. That ultimate death, of course, is my own self-realization, the return of my mind and consciousness to the one consciousness, the recognition of my own true self as a creation of God, one with God, one with the mind of God, and knowing that no matter how much resistance there is, no matter what it takes, is a total commitment, but a total commitment well worth it. Course says many times, if you had any idea, if you really understood how peaceful life could be, how joyous and happy you could really be, you would not think twice about committing to your own self-realization, your own awakening. And it goes on for a couple more sections here. I'm going to leave it at that for now. It does say that you and your brother will yet come together in my name, and your sanity will be restored. I do not believe that there is an order of difficulty in miracles. You do. I have called and you will answer. I understand that miracles are natural because they are expressions of love. My calling to you is as natural as your answer and as inevitable. Okay, throughout the Course in Miracles, again, it says this, all my problems have already been solved. And the one problem that needs to be solved has already been solved. The idea that I am separate from my source, and what that leads to, the contradictions that leads to, all the separate ideas and differences I think I see, have all arisen from one thought, the thought of separation. And it has already been corrected, that thought. Okay, I am already perfect, whole, and complete. The Course says that idea that I am separate from God lasted for but an instant before God corrected it. And now all that's happening is we are continually watching the past pass in front of us. We simply continually relive that moment of seeming separation. We just continue to live it, and it in every moment that we seem to be living it, correction. The truth, the miracle exists. It's already there. We just have to turn to it and accept it. So thanks for showing up today. Thanks for being here. Thanks for your likes. Follow this channel. Go and follow this channel. This live will be uploaded on YouTube if you missed the live any day, if you like what you're hearing, or just enjoy the vibration. This is really about the vibration we are establishing and sharing here together. Follow along. Go to YouTube. I upload these lives every day over on YouTube. And of course, I am on all the other social media apps. I'm going to start doing a little bit more on Substack and on X. You can find me there. But in any case, thanks for stopping by today. I appreciate it. Peace and blessings. I love you, and I will see you soon. Take care. Have a great day.